The Super Mario series is a well-known and beloved game series that managed to capture a massive audience of casuals and gamers alike, especially when the series transitioned into 3D. The core structure and level design of each respective game are made in a way that makes them stand out from their 2D counterparts. But one thing that comes to my mind is that these games can get too hard, and not in a really difficult, it's too hard, I can't beat this type of way. Well, most of the time. Rather, each game presents multiple ways for the player to mess up by either falling into pits or getting beaten up by enemies along the way. This led to many players having a love-hate relationship with most 3D Mario games that had levels that traumatized them for life. I, too, have experienced those same feelings. So today, I'll be re-experiencing all current mainline 3D Mario games with an additional layer of challenge. That being, I cannot die a single time in any of the games, and if I die in any of them, I move on to the next game. So with that, make sure to do all the usual stuff, like, subscribe, share it with your peers, all that good stuff, and let's get right into it. Starting with as soon as we gain control of Mario, I head into Bob Battlefield and free the poor chain chomp that's tied to this pole and grab the first star. I go straight back in and climb the mountain to face King Bob to once again grab another power star. I then proceeded to collect every other star except for the one that requires the wing cap. Afterward, I make my way into Womp's fortress and grab the first star by ground pounding through King Womp and proceeded to grab every other star in this stage, including the 100 coin star. I even did the funny wall star skip just because I can do it. Swimming across a massive secret aquarium later, and I finally unlocked the wing cap. Except, I accidentally fell down the stage while trying to do the P-switch skip. Since it only takes you back into the castle lobby without taking a life away from you, I don't count it as a death. What really counts as dying is if that life count goes down by 1. After successfully getting the red coin star on the wing cap stage again, I proceeded to collect every star in Jolly Roger Bay. There was one close call when I almost ran out of air inside the sunken ship, but luckily there was a small bit of surface air to refill my power meter, since both coins and breathing air refill the meter. Another close call is getting close to the underwater eel, which many people call unagi, so I can collect the star on the tip of his tail. Since you take tremendous amount of damage upon contact, it gets pretty intense having to swim up to the surface to refill your power meter. With enough power stars, I headed straight into the first Bowser stage, and the key to passing through the stage is taking things slowly, and making sure nothing knocks you out into the abyss below. One encounter with the big bad Bowser later, and I head into the secret slide and collect both stars there. I even successfully did the slide skip, even if the landing was a bit sloppy. Afterward, I headed into the courtyard and entered Big Boo's haunt, where I proceeded to exterminate all the Boos, defeat even more Boos from the merry-go-round, legitimately solve the book puzzle, collect the 8 red coins, and defeat Big Boo from the balcony. And while as risky as it sounds, I head onto Cool Cool Mountain and ride the big slide, while of course taking the shortcut, and deliver the lost baby penguin slowly but surely. Heading down into the basement, I catch Mips and talk to this toad for 2 free stars. And with that, we reach the 30-star requirement to open this door and enter Dire Dire Docks, where I collected the Bowser substar and opened up the entrance to the second Bowser stage. If I were to be completely honest, this is the one stage in the entire game where you have to take things slowly, because one little slip up and it's game over for you. Another encounter with Bowser later, and I headed upstairs and performed what's called a backwards long jump, or BLJ for short, on both the 3rd floor stairs and on the infamous endless staircase. Afterward, it was focus mode on making sure no enemies bump you off or making a slip up that causes you to fall off the map. I had full confidence this far in that I took no time to process everything and just went for it. And after reaching the top of the map, I encountered Bowser for the final time, and I almost died because of his sprinting. With 1 hit point away and 1 more throw, I finally successfully flinked Bowser into a bomb and completed the game. So for the first game, I call that a success. So with 1 game down, the next one shouldn't be as tense as the previous one. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized, not the secret stages! Our adventure begins once we gain control of Mario and walk around to find the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing Device. or Flood for short, which I then use to get rid of that paint-like goop creature and collect the first Shine Sprite. Mario gets thrown in jail from misaccusement and now has to clean up the entire island. And after defeating another paint-like goop creature, we give chase to what looks to be a shadow version of Mario, and it escapes into Bianco Hills. The goal here is to collect every 7th Shine Sprite of each area, since those are the ones where you get to defeat Shadow Mario. The first shine we collect is by defeating the same creature we fought seconds ago, and another one after climbing to the top of the windmill to fight against Petey Piranha. At least, what appears to be a Petey Piranha, if it wasn't for the fact that it's made of paint goop. But afterward, we enter the worst type of stages in the entire game, the secret stages. It's more difficult than it looks because they were designed in a way to test your platforming skills without the Flood Pack. And given how slippery Mario controls in this game, it's no surprise that many players despise these levels. I made it past the first one, and I made sure to take my time with it. I then proceeded to collect 8 red coins to spawn another Shine Sprite. This was the one mission that took me a while to complete because of my unfamiliarity with this game. And defeating, yet again, Petey Piranha. The 6th mission has the lake dirty, and after attempting to make my way through with lily pads, I literally almost died, but was saved by the rocket nozzle I picked up earlier. Instead of taking the long way, I just climbed partially up the windmill and rocket nozzle my way into the cave below. This was yet another secret stage that I had to complete before reaching the 7th mission. It consists of rotating platforms and cubes, so the key to beating this is with patience, and a lot of patience. But alas, when I reached the final section, this happened. That's right, instead of going around to different platforms, I simply jumped and tried diving into the front platform, which failed. And with that, we can leave Super Mario Sunshine behind and move on into the next game. But what if I told you that wasn't the only time I tried playing this game? That's right, that was my second attempt at trying to beat this. The first attempt was me failing on the first secret stage. Those secret stages, man, they're the worst. So this one's gonna be a lot different compared to the original, because there are no major skips of any kind in this game. Which means we'll have to earn the minimum of 80 stars to reach the end of the game. That'll surely add some spice to this one. We start outside as Yoshi to catch this one bunny that has a key to the castle. After entering, we go straight into Bob-omb Battlefield and climb up the mountain to defeat King Bob-omb by giving him a taste of his own medicine. And afterward... Hold on a second. I'm just repeating everything I did in Super Mario 64. Because this game is identical to the original, most of the stars are about the same. Since I'm well acquainted with the standard controls, completing this game wasn't as difficult as I imagined. So to not waste your time, I'll just skip to the parts that are new to this playthrough. I enter the 8-star door in order to enter the Mario painting, and after navigating the Toxic Maze, I reach the Goomboss arena, where I carefully align my egg throws and flutter jump around Goomboss, and finally grab the key that opens the door for Mario. There are time stars that require you to get them within a limited time, which aren't that difficult to reach. I unlock the wing cap and open the red box from the first Bowser stage, which gives me the Power Flower, allowing me to fly up the stage a lot faster. I proceed to the courtyard to collect 8 red coins from various boos and collect 5 silver stars from one of the hidden multiplayer stages. I reach the highest floor in Big Boo's haunt and enter the Luigi painting, where I navigate a maze of sorts by following the sound of King Boo's laugh, and after reaching the boss arena, I defeat King Boo and receive the key to open Luigi's door. And finally, we've reached stages that I haven't touched in the original. The vast majority of time spent in Hazy Mazy Cave is slowly and carefully navigating through passages and hazards that could ultimately result in losing a life. I made my way to the underwater lake to meet our good old friend Dory and use the Wario Cap to break the boulder and get a star, slowly collect 8 red coins with moving platforms, using the Wario Cap to grow big and break some rolling boulders, reach a secret area and float upwards towards the star, navigate a toxic maze as Metal Warrior and slowly crawl my way towards a star, use Metal Warrior again to press down an underwater switch and perform 2 scary long jumps, heading back into the toxic maze and grab another star, complete a time star within the red coin area, and lastly head back into the secret area and collect 8 red coins for a star. With Hazy Maze Cave completed, I finally head into Dire Dire Docks and collect this Bowser sub star. complete the time star on the second Bowser stage, and defeat Bowser again, earning us a key to the second floor. Afterward, I headed back into Dire Dire Docks and collected 2 other stars in there, since there's barely anything that can harm you if you're careful enough. Once I reached 51 stars, I changed into Luigi and headed upstairs and used a flower to walk past through the glass and enter the eerie but empty white room for a star. I still have no idea why this room exists in the first place. But most importantly, I came up here to save Wario, because I couldn't just leave him out, you know? And while at it, I collected every red coin in this stage for an additional star, all while taking it slowly, of course. With Chief Chili knocked out of his arena 3 times, we earned the key to unlock the final key member of the cast. Having all 4 heroes assembled at last, all that's left is to beat the rest of the game. I then proceeded to complete every other star in Dire Dire Docks, the 1 Switch star and both secret stars in Big Boo's Hunt. Then I backtracked even further into Jolly Roger Bay and collected any remaining stars that required different characters. Then I decided to take a pretty huge risk. The Big Penguin Race. I never bothered doing it in Super Mario 64, but I felt confident enough to give it a try in the DS port. And wouldn't you know, I successfully beat the Big Penguin without falling out. Afterward, I went back into the basement and entered Lethal Lava Land, where I proceeded to push a big bully into lava, push even more bullies into lava, collect 8 red coins, carefully ride a platform and backflip my way into a power star, enter an active volcano and climb up a series of platforms for 2 other stars, and lastly rode a green shell across lava to collect 5 silver stars. And if it isn't intimidating enough, I decided to also give Shifting Sandland a go. I flew around and knocked over Klepto to earn a star, flew to the top of the pyramid, carefully flew over and stepped on top of the 4 pillars to enter a part of the pyramid that contained these sentient brick hands and defeat them, and last but not least, enter the pyramid again and carefully climb my way to the top for another star. The final stage that I went to was Wet Dry World, which I found to be one of the easier stages of the second floor. Because of that, collecting 5 out of the 7 stars was a piece of cake, although I almost had a close call when my cannon wasn't high enough and took a lot of damage from the long fall, and another one for landing on the edge of a corner. Yikes. With 2 more stars remaining, I talked to the Toads on both the second and third floor for 2 more stars. And with that, we reached the minimum 80 stars to unlock the Endless Staircase and enter the third and final Bowser stage. Much like the original, it was a matter of carefully scaling up the stage without anything knocking you down and such. Case in point, there was a little slip up I had when I tried ramp panning into a moving platform. But after scaling up and running past the win, we finally reached Bowser, and proceeded to destroy him with 3 perfect throws. Like, what? So yeah, that was quite underwhelming. I did just manage to beat the one game with a D-pad as your standard control method. Either way, it was now time to switch to another banger of a video game. One that takes place in space with deadly black holes. After receiving an invitation from Peach, Mario heads into town and on his way into Peach's castle. There's nothing in here that can proactively kill you, so everything is sunshine and rainbows. That is, until Bowser decides to raid the festival and take the entire castle with him into space. Seriously, how does anyone breathe just fine with no oxygen around? After all that chaos, we wake up on a lone planet and have to catch 3 bunnies that all lead up to our first interaction with the one and only Rosalina. We get trusted with Luma over here to be granted the ability to spin and use it to get launched into another nearby planetoid. We carefully navigate around collecting star chips while avoiding falling into the black hole below, knocking down a massive Goomba, and shutting down some sort of machine to get our first Grand Star. We get introduced to the main hub area of the game, the Comet Observatory, and head straight into the Terrace Dome so we can finally start our journey. We jump planet to planet with many enemies around, but because of my inner knowledge of the game, it's all about keeping a distance and planning out your moves accordingly. We make our way into the first mini-boss of the game and exterminate a newborn for our first Power Star. Then I headed back into the same galaxy twice for 2 more stars, with the third one having to fight a short-tempered Octopus King. The next few stars consisted of helping a queen bee with an itching problem, exterminate a robot beetle of sorts, dealing with an even bigger pest, and orbiting around a small planet consisting of panel switches. I almost died in this one. Now we're coming up to the first boss fight of the game, Mega Leg, and I managed to destroy it pretty easily. So I guess that's it then. Except not, because there's a pretty cool trick I like to show you. If you triple jump at the top of the Warp Star glass dome and spin at the peak of your altitude, you'll be pulled into the gravitational pull of Megalex's moon, and no Bowser Jr. cutscene will trigger. Because of this, you'll be able to freely walk around Megalech without anything stopping you. Interestingly enough, when you look up to the planet that you first landed on, it is shown to have greenery instead of a metallic body. And you can only see this when you're on top of Megalech, since it shows normally when you look up when just standing on the moon. Alright, at this point, I think I've rambled enough about this game, so I'll just skip about 3 hours of footage for you. I made it as far as opening the engine room and the star countdown, all while optimizing which stars to go that weren't the hardest. However, upon setting foot on Gusty Garden Galaxy, halfway through, I encounter a piranha plant that spawns a vine, and after riding it, well... What? What? Are you kidding me? No, this is how we actually ended? No. Not to Gusty Garden Galaxy. What you just saw was a literal death trap of a vine. And after investigating the planet toward of any possible way to recover, I couldn't find anything. Which, in that case, what was the whole point of putting a vine that supposedly rewards you with a 1-up and insta-kills you afterward? I'm too disappointed by that death. So let's move on to another game that I have great fond memories of, and surely the same mistakes won't happen again. Right? After getting launched into space after a giant Bowser attack, we're dropped right into the first mission, where we get to, once again, exterminate a newborn for a power star. We get introduced to this fellow purple star called Lubba, who uses the power star that we had just collected to turn his spaceship into the shape of Marius' head. Pretty neat. Afterward, our adventure has finally started, and we head over into Yoshi's Star Galaxy, and, you guessed it, free Yoshi for the first time. I did, however, roll this dice and got a Bowser result. Is this a sign for bad luck for what's up ahead? Either way, I head upwards along a series of platforms to get our next star. I then headed back into Sky Station Galaxy, where I somehow managed to avoid every possible star bit in this section, avoid cosmic clones, and defeat this large spiky piranha plant for a key that opens another star. And while at it, I returned to Yoshi Star Galaxy and made my way to meet what's presumably the king of Lakitus, and defeat him with the taste of his own medicine. The next galaxy introduces us to the spin drill, which we can use to dig through planets. At some point, we reach a section that gets awfully close to a black hole. There's no reason ever as to why in-universe would you have such a deadly obstacle very close to the player. A few more planets later, we encounter Dig-a-Leg, which at first glance looks to be a miniature version of Megaleg. With being careful of not being stomped on, it gets defeated and another star for us. In Fluffy Bluff Galaxy, instead of going for the first star, I instead opted into collecting 100 coins to feed this hungry Luma to create another planet for a hidden star. I then feed another hungry Luma star bits to open Flip Swap Galaxy and spin my way towards another star. The next 3 stars consisted of me meeting up with a blue monkey called the Chimp, destroying these wooden crates with a fire flower power-up, and carefully navigating my way through various hazards while gravity is always different. It was finally then that I reached Bowser Jr.'s fiery flotilla and took on the first boss, Gobble God. But the journey I took to get there was a little different. You see, if you stand on top of this twump and reach this part of the map, reach the part where you're aligned to the planet, and long jump straight forward, you'll be pulled by the gravitational pull of the boss's planet. As if certain things never change. Only this time, Bowser Jr.'s cutscene does trigger, so perhaps the developers have learned something from the previous game. The easiest trick to defeating Gobble God is by removing the last 3 bulges in Phase 1, then the first 3 bulges in Phase 2. I make it as far as World 3, and after being introduced to having Luigi playable and coming across him on Cloudy Core Galaxy, I make it upwards into an area, and... No! There is no way that octo thing guy just killed me by just spinning on me and landing on a black hole. Alright, this may sound entirely coincidental, but remember when I said back in Yoshi Star Galaxy when I rolled the dice that it was giving a sign or something? Well, turns out I do end up getting that bad luck eventually. What just happened was that the Octumba was facing the opposite direction from where I was, leading it to shoot twice, one where it was facing originally, and the other one facing towards me. This wasn't Luigi's fault, but rather, it was just plain bad luck. With both Galaxy games being complete duds, let's move on over to the 3DS. I know what you're thinking. How are you able to capture video footage for the 3DS? Yeah, this is how we're gonna work with this. I was fortunate enough to borrow my dad's camera to get the best possible angle, and while it isn't the greatest footage ever, it's serviceable since there's no internal capture method for the 3DS. They do exist, but I'm not willing to install such modifications to my 3DS. Our adventure begins when we're off to rescue Princess Peach after a stormy night, and oh man, I haven't felt these controls in a while. The minimum amount of star medals required to beat this game is 100 medals, making it strongly recommended for me to find and collect every 3 medals in each stage. With the first stage acting as a tutorial, the second stage ever so slightly gets difficult with piranha plants spitting ink towards the screen. I took the secret pipe found on top of the screen to warp to World 2. Throughout this playthrough, I made sure to keep a Tanuki suit power up with me at all times, since the ability to slowly descend from the air greatly helps in certain scenarios where I need to control where I'm falling. The second stage in World 2 becomes pretty scary, since you're walking on top of temporary face panels across poison, which is the reason why having a Tanuki suit with me would greatly help. After completing a mystery box challenge, we enter a stage where we use a propeller box to fly around these 8-bit platforms. As nostalgic as this seems, those smaller platforms become scary fast if you don't know how to control your movement. Then we get into a stage with panels that change every time you jump. It's all about patience when carefully jumping from platform to platform. The first Starship stage was a basic auto-scroller that also needed to be taken slowly in order to reach the end and go against the Mad Lad himself, Boom Boom. I also took the risk of getting this one-up from a ledge, and this isn't the last time it happens. Moving on to World 3, I used the propeller box to scale up this tower faster in 3-1, swim around Cheep Cheeps and Porcupuffers in 3-2, walk across falling donut platforms quickly in 3-3, carefully walk around ropes and ride on a block in 3-4, and lastly avoid the incoming automated blue hazards in 3-airship. Also, here's the second and final time I walked on a ledge, but this was for a star medal, so it was worth it. My all-time favorite stage is 4-1 because you get to scale up a tall tree. It also contains a cannon for a star medal, which almost landed me on the edge of the map. Another mystery box later, and we make it into 4-2, where at the top of the map, it contains another difficult to reach orange pipe that skips to World 5. With no more skips from this point forward, it's about time we clear every stage afterward. 5-1 introduces you to the boomerang power-up, and while I never ended up using it for the most part, it's got some use for certain parts. 5-2 takes you into a top-down perspective, reminiscent to that of the first The Legend of Zelda game. Speaking of which, a nice little reference. The rest of the stage had me walking across lava and moving obstacles, but it was manageable. 5-3 has these oddly large multi-moles, but nothing crazy overall. 5-4 had me use the propeller box again to scale upwards a series of platforms and clouds. The ride down is a lot more tense though, since every platform gradually gets smaller. 5-Castle is the starting point of you'd better focus or it's game over, because lava insta-kills you in this game. Carefully walking across a fake Bowser around the edges, and we clear World 5. The rest of World 6 and World 7 went as expected. Apart from 2 close calls in 6-2 and 7-4, nothing else major happened between here. We did get a fight against Boom Boom's female counterpart, Pom Pom, who acts as a decent way to grind 1-ups. Moving over to World 8, 8-1 had me dodge several moving obstacles and perform a risky shot to the goal. Jump between pole to pole above the air and avoid blue fire in 8-2, carefully rotate on moving platforms and avoid getting hit by multiple ghosts in 8-4, and slowly jump between flip panels while dodging flying enemies in 8-5. 8-Bowser was up, and the game made sure to throw in every possible type of enemy towards me as presumably a final test of my enemy dodging and platforming skills. Equipping the Tanuki suit, I faced a real Bowser and sent him to his demise. But a shocking reveal is that the princess we saw from the binoculars a few minutes ago wasn't the real deal. We then see Bowser fly off without any support. How does he do stuff like this? After seeing a concerned look on Bowser when running off, we enter 8-6 as a final test of everything we learned along the way, from rotating platforms to hazards like enemies and lava in your way. Bowser sure doesn't mess around with Mario. Opening up 8-Bowser with the required 100 star medals, we enter my second most played stage in the game, because it's that freaking good! You first ride along two moving platforms while dodging fire breaths, then you have a build-up where you shoot your way to the tallest tower in the game, where you finally find Princess Peach tied to the flagpole. But before anything else happens, Bowser shows up and collapses the floor altogether, bringing us to the final boss fight in the game. The final sequence has you dodge Bowser's fire breaths and move from sinking platforms to another. There's even a Donkey Kong reference where Bowser starts throwing barrels at you. How cute. Knocking down Bowser once wasn't enough, because he now breathes pink fire that is able to fly past breakable platforms. One final chase sequence later, and it's GG's from here. We find Princess Peach still tied to the flagpole and set her free from captivity, thus ending Super Mario 3D Land. Finally, we have a win this time! And while there were some moments where it would have been over, I enjoyed my time replaying this one. And before I forget, here are the final stats. So with this game out of the way, the next one can only get better than this. At least I hope so, because Mario and the gang get to travel to a completely different kingdom afterward. For this adventure, we select Peach, since our middle air glide will come in clutch throughout this playthrough. Once we're dropped off into the Strixie Kingdom, we enter the first stage of the game. It is your standard tutorial stage that introduces you to the cat suit and how this game feels and controls. And while you're able to jump off any ledge, the best course of action is to remain within the main play area. 1-2 is your usual first underground stage that can be easily passed through when keeping your distance between enemies, and this is one of those games where you encounter enemy stages, which are these small, bite-sized stages where you must defeat various types of enemies within a time limit to earn a green star, which are the main collectibles of this game. 1-3 has me scale up a mountain and defeat a big piranha plant at the top, but nothing too crazy. 1-5 can be viewed as a joke of a level, because you can press down on these switches with either the Wii U gamepad touchscreen or the Joy-Con gyroscope. We had enough green stars to play the first castle stage, but I opted to play the Captain Toad stage instead. And for these stages, you control Captain Toad himself or on a small map to collect 5 additional stars. Pretty neat. 1-Castle introduces the kick bombs, which are used to destroy enemies and walls by kicking them. And we use them to knock out Bowser, which is driving a nice fancy car. One Bowser encounter later, and we rescue the first Brixie Princess and move on to World 2. If I be honest, I didn't have much trouble with this game overall, since the main strategy was to collect enough green stars to unlock the final stage, making sure you had a spare item with you in case you took a lot of damage, and to pick any stage that wasn't overly difficult or contained sections that can insta-kill you. But most importantly, is to take things slow. It was making sure that no risky moves were attempted if you wanted to stay alive. So with that in mind, let's just fast forward to the final world, shall we? Bowser-1, or 8-1, depending on how you view it, has you walk across time-spiked platforms. As long as you jump in between spikes and not fall off the stage, this becomes a walk in the park. 8-3 had me jump in between rotating cookie platforms that can be held down with the extra hand, but an otherwise straightforward one. One short gambling session later, and we boarded into Bowser Express for the final time. It's auto-scrollers like these that I enjoy, because we get to ride a train. 8-5 is mainly an underwater-based stage that has you slowly move across spike blocks, but is also home to the final Plessy section. Even if it's short, it's nice to have one of these. I almost died here from being pushed off. 8-6 is a ghost house that has you wear a box lamp and ride these slow and long platforms. It's all about staying within the platform and flashing your light towards any nearby ghost. I then make a quick stop at a toad house to grab power-ups, because 8-7 has you ride on these sentient blocks that move automatically across lava. And it doesn't help that there are multiple enemies around, making this the scariest stage by far. 2 defeated mini-bosses later, and we're finally entering the final stage. Oh. Then I proceeded to backtrack to stages that I've already beaten, but left out any additional stars that I haven't collected. Also, sorry for saying this, but why does this stack of coins look like a dick? So does this one, but it's even more obvious. Alright, with enough green stars, let's finally finish this. The first section is practically straightforward and all, just making sure I was fully stacked. Then we reach the main attraction of the stage, the final boss fight against Meowser. What's quite underwhelming about this boss fight is that it's an auto-scroller, and a very long one for that fact. Even when Bowser decides to use double cherries, it's still long and boring. Only things get more interesting when we reach the green ladders, since everything speeds up and we're reaching the top of the tower, which we then hit a massive POW block to get rid of Bowser for good. Afterward, we reach the top cloud and touch the final flagpole of the game, freeing all the Sprixie princesses and ending Super Mario 3D World. Well, that one wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. A lot better than 3D Land by a long shot. With this game done, it was now time to take a trip around the world and be a wedding crasher on the moon! For this playthrough, I opted to do World Peace, which means going through every kingdom and defeating their respective bosses that ultimately revives the kingdom back to its former glory. And while it is possible to complete the game without doing World Peace, it only makes sense to do so otherwise, since every kingdom has a moon count needed in order to progress to the next one. Our journey begins in the Cap Kingdom, where we wake up and startle Cappy, who we both agree to team up in order to catch up with Bowser. Acting as a tutorial to the game, there isn't much in here that can proactively kill you, apart from accidentally falling off or getting hit by these small Goombas. One major thing I liked having was collecting the Big Heart, which increases your health to 6 hit points. Once we reach the top of the massive top hat, we have our first encounter with what's called the Brutals, and face off against Topper, who immediately goes down after 2 stomps. We ride an electric current, and our journey across the globe finally begins. We rough land onto Cascade Kingdom and capture a Chain Chomp to open up our first Power Moon. I then open up another roadblock area that turns into 8-bit and collect another Power Moon while at it. We reach the top area and face off against the manager of the Brutals, Madame Brood, and use her pet Chain Chomp to defeat her and obtain the first Multi-Moon, which we then use to restore the Odyssey back to its former glory. We then fly over to the next location, Sand Kingdom. This is part of the game where I use my inner mind to collect most of the easiest moons I could obtain along the way. Like I said earlier, this is all done in order to reach the required amount of Power Moons needed to progress to the next kingdom. We reach the top of the pyramid and face off another member of the Brutals, Harriet, who we then fling back her bombs and defeat her for another multi-moon. Despite having enough moons to progress through the game, I still kept going and headed deeper into where the inverted pyramid was. Before that though, I made a quick stop to answer some questions from the Sphinx for some Power Moons. Heading deep underground, we walk across slippery ice above a large pit, but use a stack of Goombas for me not to slip and use bullet bills to carefully reach the other side. Entering the boss arena, we face what's presumably the owner of the binding ring and use his hands to punch his face and collect the multi-moon that it had. Okay, this may sound like I'm lazy and such, but this video is already dragging out with how much there is to share here. I mean literally, it was going to be 11 minutes of me summarizing what I did in Super Mario Odyssey. That being said, I didn't have any problem with this game overall. I'm very well acquainted with any modern Super Mario game, and while making it to the very end was quite a challenge, it was manageable to say the least. However, there were 2 moments that feel appropriate to share here. In the Wooded Kingdom, I stumbled across a secret area with fuzzies as obstacles, and I almost died because of my blind memory of this area. In the Luncheon Kingdom, we entered a cave on our way back to the top of the mountain, but because I was trying to go fast, I got taken off my lava bubble and almost burned myself to death, and ended up retreating to the plaza for a big heart. With lessons learned, I took it slow this time and didn't end up burning myself. Alright, with all that taken care of, let's jump cut to the final kingdom. I won't ask how anyone breathes out here, but the low gravity of the moon makes it fun jumping around. Heading down the cave below, this is the final form of platforming challenge that we've been accustomed to throughout our adventure. Slowly heading upwards and using a charging chuck to reach the top of the cave, we encounter Madame Brood once more, and she gets beaten again by me. Rushing towards the beautiful building and crashing into the wedding, Bowser sets off a floor trap and we fall down into another boss arena. The next minute had us defeat Bowser again, dodging every fire attack and punching our way to victory. We strip Bowser of all his wedding clothes and free Princess Peach from captivity. Of course, that isn't the end, because the whole area collapses around us and we fall deeper into the moon's core. And with the only option left is to capture Bowser's body. Nice mustache. With one final escape sequence, we run away out of here by destroying walls with our fire breaths and claws, entering one final 2D section, and locking in as we enter the final room where we destroy 4 rock pillars that open up another rock. And with the metal cube in the middle exposed, we break it further and write another electrical current, and... let's go! We did it! We successfully escaped the moon's crater. In a fight over who gets to have the bride, Peach bravely rejects both boys and sets off back to Earth with Cappy and Tiara. Such a W move from the princess! We do get to leave Bowser stranded on the moon at the final second. And before anybody asks, there's just one final thing we have to check. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The entirety of Super Mario Odyssey was completed without dying, and world peace was achieved. With another video game completed, let's move on to the final game of this video. Honestly, I think after being stranded on the moon for so long, Bowser managed to make it back to Earth and got so infuriated that he turned massive and brought chaos to the world. What is going on inside that turtle mind? After following a trail of black goo, Mario gets teleported and crash lands into a mysterious world where a massive yet controlled Bowser reigns supreme. After reaching the first lighthouse, we collect the first cat shine in the game, which drives Bowser away. We are then properly introduced to the rest of the game, and Bowser Jr. awaits us at the shore, who then explains to us that Bowser's gone mad and needs our help recovering him from such influence. We agree to help him out. The goal here is to collect a minimum of 50 cat shines in order to complete the main story, with each lighthouse containing 5 cat shines each. Interestingly enough, this entire place has every enemy, plants, and even decors with cat features. Almost as if cats in this land represent something major. I mean, hello, the whole area is called Lake Lapcat for a reason! We collected 2 more cat shines from 2 other towers, and this lone one with a cat suit. I then proceeded to knock over bullies into lava, and right before Fury Bowser woke up too. Once we reach enough cat shines, we awaken a Giga Bell, whom we then use to return big enough to fight against Bowser. Looking good there, Mario. Ground pounding Bowser's belly 3 times neutralizes him. This in return opens up more of the land to explore, and gives us access to Ride Plessy, who acts as a great transportation buddy for this campaign. I then ride with a skate towards 2 more cat shines and arrive at the Colosseum area, where I proceeded to defeat both Boom Boom and Pom Pom, and wait for Bowser to wake up and collect a cat shine from blocks that only Bowser can break. It was then that we had enough to use another Giga Bell, but I was forced to wait it out before I could give it another go at it. Another epic 1-to-1 fight later, and we take down Bowser's health bar by half, which I guess is more than enough for him to retreat. I ended up spending way too long finding this darn shiny shard. So long, in fact, that I ended up looking it up. On the brighter side, that's one lighthouse completed. I then took it to another island with invisible platforms, where the same shine shard objective happened again. At least the other remaining cat shine objectives were manageable, and it didn't take me very long to find the last shard. I got Bowser to open up another shard to collect later, and booked it for another Gigabell. This time around, I had to use these protective pillars and throw them at Bowser. With the health bar fully depleted, a cat-shaped rainbow appears, and the rest of the map gets almost fully opened up. It was at this point that I started grinding for cat shines in the safest way possible, by mainly backtracking through previous areas and completing lighthouses. It was slow and tedious, especially those that required Bowser's assistance, but the reward was super worth it. I almost built up so many power-ups for my item storage that getting killed in the later half of the stage would be near impossible. Skipping over to the final 5 cat shines, I collected the remaining shine shards from the donut platform area. And for some reason, I rushed over to another pile of Bowser blocks to open up a cannon, which I never ended up using, then ran it back to break another set of blocks for a cat shine, all while almost getting killed in the process. And while I made Bowser retreat, he immediately wakes up again, and now I have to dodge his attacks while having to deal with a piranha plant eating all the fuzzies for another cat shine. The game was struggling to run at 60 FPS during all this. Reaching the final 2 cat shines, it was now that Bowser wouldn't be affected by anything, so it was just constant fury mode until we finally reached the 50th cat shine, which ended up being a timed Plessy challenge. With the minimum amount needed to open a Gigabell, we fight against Fury Bowser one last time. He gets beaten up fairly quickly. This releases Bowser from the Black Fury influence, but he's still in some sort of influential control, which results in us having to chase him down. All the attacks that were pushed on me were manageable enough to not take any damage. With one final strike towards Bowser, it was then that I finally beat the game. Mario and Plessy touch the 3 Gigabells, which turns us massive and squish Bowser, releasing him from any influence put on him. Bowser Jr. thanks us for recovering his father and makes fun of me at the last second. Not even surprised. And with that, we covered every mainline 3D Mario game as of 2025. It felt refreshing playing through these games again, as it reminded me of how each game drastically improved upon another. Here are the list of games that were a success, and here are the ones that weren't a success. Be sure to check out Nathaniel Bandy, the guy from where I got this video idea in the first place. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.